I have sat in more SWOT analysis sessions than I care to count. Big rooms, expensive facilitators, executives writing on little sticky notes, hours of organized groupthink. And at every session at the end, someone prints a 2x2 grid with 32 bullet points in 4 boxes, and they call it a strategic plan. That is not a strategic plan. It is a very expensive list, and operating on a list is not strategy. It's administration with ambition. Today, we kill the SWOT myth. Hello, my name is Todd Hagopian, the original Stagnation Assassin and the author of The Unfair Advantage, Weaponizing the Hypomanic Toolbox. Today, on the Stagnation Assassin MBA, we're cracking open the SWOT analysis. I'm going to tell you what they teach you in the program, what they leave out, and what you actually need to know if you're running a real business in the real world. The stagnation SWOT creates is subtle, but it's dangerous. It gives leadership teams the psychological satisfaction of having done strategic thinking without requiring any strategic decisions. Let's look at the textbook version of the SWOT analysis. Here's what the textbook says. And to be fair, it's not entirely wrong. SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, was developed in the 60s, by the way, at Stanford Research Institute by Albert Humphrey and his colleagues as part of a research project analyzing why corporations planning failed. The framework was designed as an environmental scan that connects internal factors, strengths and weaknesses, with external conditions, opportunities, and threats. The goal was to generate strategic options by identifying where internal strengths align with external opportunities and where internal weaknesses expose the organization to external threats. The theory is elegant. The logic holds in a controlled environment. In a classroom, students can build a coherent SO strategy or a WT strategy. It's a legitimate analytical structure. It's also the most commonly used strategic framework in business globally. The ubiquity is itself telling. But let's look at the real world debrief where it holds. SWOT earns its tuition in two specific situations. First, as an onboarding diagnostic, when I enter a new assignment, a new division, a turnaround situation, a business review, a really rapid SWOT gives me a structured way to collect observations from multiple stakeholders and begin to see the organization's self perception. Not the truth necessarily, but the gap between the SWOT people produce and the operational reality that I subsequently discover is itself diagnostic. It tells me what the organization believes about itself, which is essential intelligence. The SWOT does not tell you the truth. It tells you what the organization believes about itself. And that gap is where the real work is going to live. Second, SWOT works as a communication tool for stakeholders who aren't comfortable with more rigorous strategic frameworks. It creates common vocabulary quickly. Used this way as a bridge, not a destination, can be a legitimate facilitation tool. But let's look at the operating room. Where does this framework break down? Here's where the professor sits down and the operator stands up. SWOT has three structural failure modes that make it dangerous when treated as a strategy tool. Failure one, the framework produces no prioritization. A list of 9 strengths and 11 weaknesses and 7 opportunities and 12 threats tells you absolutely nothing about which of those 39 items matter. The 80-20 principle applies here with brutal force. A small number of those items will determine the vast majority of the organization's competitive outcome. SWOT does not help you find them. A list of 39 strategic factors is not a strategy. It's a paralysis generator with good formatting. Failure 2. The categories are unstable. What counts as a strength in one competitive environment is a liability in another. A large physical retail footprint was a SWOT strength in 2005 and a SWOT weakness in 2015. The framework doesn't capture this dynamism because it takes a snapshot without a timestamp. Failure 3, and this is a fatal one. The framework generates no decisions. After every SWOT session I've witnessed in a Fortune 500 context, someone has to ask, so what do we do? That question should have been answered by the framework, but it never is. Strategy requires prioritized choices about resource allocation. SWOT produces categorized observations. These are not the same thing at all. This assumption that description is strategy is where the model meets reality and then blinks. So let's talk about the operator's upgrade. What can you do with this? Here's the replacement protocol. Take your completed SWOT and immediately run the 80-20 matrix over it. Force rank every item by its impact on operating profit. The top 2 or 3 items in each category are real. The rest is noise. Eliminate them from your entire strategic conversation. Then stabilize, standardize, and scale. Use the remaining weakness-threat intersections to identify what needs to be stabilized first. Use the strength-opportunity intersections to identify what can be standardized and eventually scaled. This gives the SWOT output a sequenced action structure that the framework itself has never actually provided. SWOT produces the raw material for strategy, but it's the operator's job to run it through a decision filter, not frame it and hang it on a wall. So the Stagnation Assassin verdict on the SWOT analysis is you've got to reframe it. SWOT is not useless, but it is mispositioned. Used as a structured observation collector in the first 48 hours of a diagnostic engagement, it can be fast and functional. But used as the output of a strategic planning process, it's organizational theater that creates the feeling of strategic work without any substance at all. Reframe it. Treat SWOT as the raw material input, not the strategic output. The strategy starts where the sticky notes end. That's the SWOT. That's what the framework collects and what operators actually need from it. For more on building real strategy from real diagnostics, grab the Unfair Advantage and follow the Stagnation Assassin show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Also, deliver and look at toddhagopian.com and stagnationassassins.com for the world's largest stagnation database. And remember to continue to declare war on stagnation. Thank you.